Okay, y'all. You know, every Wednesday night in the Mastermind, we bring a special guest on. Now, I went to Traffic and Funnels a few months ago. Tickets was $5,000. And I didn't know what I was going to learn, who I was going to meet. And while I was in the room, I'm looking around and I noticed two tall, beautiful women. I kept staring at them, but I didn't want them to know that I was looking at them. I mean, I'm 5'7". They had to be at least 6 foot and above. And I'm looking at them and I'm wondering, what do they do? Because everybody at this event does something online. They had 6 and 7 figure earners. And I'm thinking, well, they're not internet marketers, but in my mind, as pretty as they were, slim, their teeth were perfectly pearl white aligned. I mean, I'm looking at everything from head to toe, and I'm kind of nervous and a little scared. And I asked him, can I take a picture with y'all? Because I'm thinking this black dude in front of these two Caucasian women that's towering over him, that'll be a nice picture for me and grab a lot of attention. They were so nice, y'all. They were so nice to me. They made me feel about 7 feet tall. Now, when I was looking at them, I'm wondering what they do. I kind of figured that they was in the beauty industry because they were beautiful. And they told me they have this pageant. So Megan, I want you to start from your childhood. You got a great family, all-American family. I know you love your dad, you love the Lord, because I've stalked your page and stalked you all a little bit. So I know your sister was a great basketball player. So without further ado, can you start at the kind of beginning and just share a little bit about your life? And then I'm going to be asking you questions about how you became Miss Nebraska, how your sister became Miss Nebraska. You even talked about how sometimes beautiful women that stand out get bullied sometimes. You were very tall, so I don't know how somebody bullied you when you was the biggest person. But tell us a little bit about your life and how you got started.
Yes, well, thank you for the amazing introduction. You know a lot more about my life than most people who interview me and then write the craziest things in the newspaper that aren't even true. So, really appreciate the thorough investigation. But my name is Megan Swanson, and my sister is Allie Swanson, now Allie Mancuso, who we all had the pleasure of meeting in Nashville, and it was just as lovely as he described. And we kind of love breaking down the fourth wall. You know, we are Amazon women. I'm the shortest person in my family at about 6'1". My older brother is 6'8". My sister's 6'2", and my sister-in-law from Brazil is 6'4". They just had a little baby. He's about just under 2 months old, and he's already a giant. So we're all trying to, bet on how tall he's going to be. Little baby Theo, we're guessing about 6'10" probably. And so, yeah, we stand out everywhere we go. As mentioned, but it was really tough growing up. I've been this tall since I was about 12 years old. And my dad used to stretch us as we were going to bed. That was a real thing. I don't know if it worked, but they wouldn't let us drink coffee till we were like 17. So, maybe that was part of it too. But yeah, we're in the pageant industry. I own a company called Powerhouse Pageantry. And I was Miss Nebraska USA last year, competed at Miss USA, and then 7 years ago competed at Miss America. It was like my third pageant ever. Found myself on TV, and then once again this past year. And we help women in 47 states now learn communication skills, leadership skills, mindset skills, and also help them develop their brands on social media. We built our company entirely on Instagram. And 7 years ago, I was somebody who didn't even hardly know how to take a selfie. To this day, as you can see, and I just threw my hair up in a ponytail today, we're very down to earth people. And I love the opportunity every day to kind of break down the stereotypes that are presented to us via what we look like or where we come from. And having real conversations with people, they might judge us or think one thing of my sister and I based off of how we look and how we carry ourselves. But I think it's such an awesome opportunity just to prove people right or prove people wrong by having really deep, intimate conversations. And that's what we get to do every day for a living, is help other women who are aesthetically beautiful on the outside really deepen their understanding of the world and who they are on the inside. And I'm really grateful for the values that were instilled in myself and my sister through my family. My parents were in ministry. I'm a PK. Growing up my whole life, I grew up rolling around on the church floor 5 days a week, and I'm really grateful for that. My parents met in a recording studio 35 years ago singing for television. And then we packed up everything and toured the country when I was a young girl. So we'd scrape pennies together for Papa Murphy's pizza nights on Fridays, and grew up with not a whole lot, but I'm really grateful to have had parents who said yes to my dreams, even if they were crazy. And I contribute and attribute a lot of my success today because of simply them saying yes, even when times got really hard. Lastly, so pageants actually paved a really cool thing in my life. They were the only reason why I was able to finish college. They paid for my sister's entire education, her entire master's in just 1 year of competing, and she won over $50,000 in scholarship for through her pageant experience, even though she was a two-time All-American basketball player. So that's a little bit about us. I'm sure we'll get deeper into that. But yeah, it's kind of a weird route of how we got into this world today, but really grateful to be here.
Now, when you were in grade school, I'm sure you was probably one of the tallest people. So how was that?
Yeah, it was really difficult. It was also difficult because I was a bull in a china shop, and as a strong kind of like alpha female, um, in a traditional kind of public education society, I didn't realize or know how to kind of harness my personality at a young age. So I actually went to the principal's office a lot in elementary school. Got in trouble. Was a straight A student. I was just bored. And I didn't know that that's because I was an entrepreneur at heart and I'm a musician, very creative. And school was just really boring. And so I think I just found ways to keep my own attention, and that was by talking. And sometimes when other girls would get picked on, I wouldn't like that. So I would take care of business. But, I was bullied as a child. And I think that then my strong personality kind of rose out of that. Regardless of being taller than everybody, it doesn't mean I think people are still mean because they're mean people. And that was really, really hard for me growing up. Actually, a huge part of my testimony and my story and why I work with pageant women today, who are some of the most prolific and just intelligent, amazing clients in the world, are because they are women who have similar stories. They had really tough struggles that you would never know via Instagram. You would never know from looking at most of their Instagrams, which is why I try and be really transparent about the abuse that I've walked through and just different things that I've walked through in my life. But yeah, I actually didn't have a female friend that lasted more than about 3 weeks till college. And I was publicly humiliated by women for most of my life, standing up in front of a cafeteria of 3,000 people and screaming at me and spreading lies and rumors about me. And so I always tell people it's a joke. It's like so hilarious that I work with women today because I swore I would never do that. And I thought that there wasn't a place for somebody like me in this world with a bold personality. I thought you had to be, the Sister Mary type that was just very helpful and kind of quiet, to be this like woman who empowered other women. And I'm so glad that other women, other trailblazers were able to kind of shatter that glass ceiling and show me, and as I've been able to show others as well, that you can be exactly who God created you to be.
Now, when you went to high school, how was that leading from junior high to high school?
Yeah, I would say it got a little bit better. So I always encourage people to, kind of find your niche early as humanly possible. Tinker with everything, join clubs, activities. I think that's how a lot of us find our entrepreneurial journey in general, and kind of figure out, what God's plan for you is, or the multifaceted maybe things, multiple things that you're going to get your hand into. I was an athlete growing up and a musician, like I said, and found a ton of joy having the craziness of basketball season and competitive show choir and musicals kind of all at the same time. So I found significance through that. One of the 6 basic human needs Tony Robbins talks about, one of them is significance. And I found a lot of significance by achieving and by being really good at things, but I realized that transitioning into college, I actually developed a pretty bad eating disorder where I gained 45 pounds in the midst of about 6 months, and had never had to think about that before. A tall, skinny woman, and here I was moving 12 hours away from home to music school in Nashville, Tennessee, and just was kind of like, what happened? And I felt really, really out of control. And I realized that's because a lot of the hardship and the bullying and these different things that I had been through, I had never dealt with. And so once I finally was able to kind of look myself in the mirror, that's really when like my leadership journey and kind of me stepping into my own shoes as who I would say that I am today really started, was when I was willing to kind of face the facts of the internal world, because a lot of really crazy stuff was going on.
So when you went off to college, because you went to, was it Belmont, or it was Belmont, and y'all had a good basketball team, especially the men's basketball team.
Yes, we do.
So when you went off to college, how was that leaving home and going off to college?
Yeah, it was really difficult. I mean, being when you come from a really tight knit family and not being able to see them, but maybe twice every 6 months, and when you don't have $1 million to come and fly home all the time, it was immensely difficult. And you make the most of it, but I think that sometimes elevation requires separation, and so I felt like that's kind of what my that period of my life really represented. I was a very small fish in a very big pond for the first time in my life. I was always top dog, best singer, best athlete, best musician, and I went to Nashville and it was like no one cares whether you exist. So that was very humbling, and I think I took that freshman year of college very difficultly to kind of relearn and rewire who I was and also decide who I wanted to be. But that was real, a very, very difficult season, and something I talk about a lot, actually.
Now, when did you get into the pageants?
Great question.
And
So,
how did you get into it?
yeah. So I had done one when I was 15, and pageants have had a really weird way of kind of threading themselves through my life. When I was 15, I won my very first ever pageant, went to nationals, placed top 10, and actually nationals were in Nashville. So my mom and my sister were like touring around Nashville while I was in rehearsals all day, and that's how my mom found Belmont. So it's like the craziest thing of every time I had a pageant, it was like not really our thing. Like we weren't pageant people growing up, but they always led to something greater. And then after I'd walked through my eating disorder and kind of processed that, lost some weight, figured out there were some other, hormonal things going on with allergies to gluten and dairy and whatever, and I kind of got that under control. I was dating my first boyfriend and I was like obsessed with him. And I came home after my sophomore year of college, and my mom, she's so wise. She sat me down in the kitchen and was like, yo, Megan, like, you're living in la la land, you're planning your whole life already, but like what do you want to do? Like don't lose sight of yourself. And I looked on Facebook, and Facebook was probably listening to my conversations, and it came across my screen that the Miss Nebraska before me had just been crowned. Her name was JC Pilkington, and something leapt in my heart, and God was just like, you're supposed to do that. And I didn't know the difference between Miss America, Miss USA. I didn't know anything. I didn't know if I had a talent. I didn't know like how you even entered. I was like, can somebody like me enter? I don't even know how to do this. And I was just like, well, I'm going to do it. So we found that the Miss Omaha pageant, you had to qualify for a local. We found out that the local pageant that I wanted to compete in was the same weekend as my fall break. So we already bought a plane ticket, and I was like, okay, I need a talent. I need a gown. I need to learn how to do an interview for 10 minutes. I need to like learn some political stuff, and I got to learn how to walk. And I had been modeling since I was 11. So I was like, okay, let's just like throw it together. And if I win, cool. If I don't, I'm just going to go back to college. So I ended up winning the local. Didn't know it was the toughest local in the state, that girls try for years to win this local. And I just walk in there like, do, 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 do. I just walk in and win. I'm like 19 years old, and go on then to win Miss Nebraska on my first try as well, and 10 weeks later at Miss America. So literally in the span of less than a year, I'm on national TV competing for Miss America. I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's how I got into pageants. And then went back to college, finished my senior year, started my company, and then took 6 years before I decided to compete in the other system, the USA system. And I set out to be the first person to win the Nebraska America and Nebraska USA title in my state, and then I did. And it was huge. It was risking my whole reputation as kind of a one and done winner, but I did it for my clients, and I wanted to show girls that you can take big risks and that they can have big rewards. And so that's the title that I just gave up a couple months ago. Got to hold it for a long time because of COVID, and just was a really fun challenge. I love challenges and met a bunch of amazing, amazing women all over the country. We got to pursue something really meaningful during such a crazy time, because our pageant Miss USA was during election week last year, so that was wild in itself. But yeah, so that's kind of how pageants came into my life. Almost totally random, but look where we are now. It's like my whole world.
Now, preparing for these pageants, can you tell us what goes into that we don't see? Because we just see beautiful women that look perfect inside and out on the stage. So can you tell us the behind the scenes and what goes into that?
Yes, absolutely. So that's what I do for a living now, is I help girls transform the inside so that they can have a better outside. And we could go into the minutia of all the different types of pageants and all that kind of stuff, but I won't. The big differences are just basically USA goes to Universe, and after Miss America, you're done. America has talent, USA doesn't. So there are thousands upon thousands of hours, and the main areas that we focus on are basically building the foundation of someone's identity. So I'll give you guys 30,000 foot view. So 30,000 foot view is I teach girls how to go into basically a press conference 10-minute style interview where you have 5 to 7 judges who can literally ask you anything on the planet, from did President Biden handle Afghanistan correctly in foreign policy this week, right? To what's your favorite color, to if you were a sign, what would it say, to tell us about your platform and your marketing plan for your year if you were to win Miss Virginia, right? Just popcorn, bang, bang, boom. So I teach them the mental strategies, the mental skills, teaching them about their selves, their personality, their identity, their core values, everything that walks into that room with them, so that they basically don't freak out and pee their pants, right? Because you're also in 6-inch heels, you're also in an interview outfit, your hair and makeup has to be perfect, all that stuff, right? Which is pressure enough to like look amazing and not like sweat through your shoes where the back of your heels are falling off. But also, learning so much about yourself that you are like almost doing a play-by-play in your own mind of like, calm myself down, thinking clearly. What are the stories I want to get across? What do I want to tell the judges? If they ask you a crazy question, how do I stay in my front foot, not my back foot? And it's 10 minutes long. So it's crazy. I mean, literally there's cameras in your face. Like, it's wild. So I teach them how to do that. And as you can imagine, that's why pageant women, if you follow them and you see what they do after their pageant careers, they go on to do pretty amazing things. A lot of them are hosts or broadcast journalists or entrepreneurs or nurses working in the medical field, or can handle high pressure situations, lawyers, because they have been mentally wired to handle, all this attention and separating their identity from these achievements. So we do a lot in the psychology field, even with these women, because it is really difficult when you have so many voices and praise and noise all over you. When you're done with that crown, my crown's back there, one of them. When you're done and you're not wearing that out, you're not getting that attention. It's like, who are you? And you have to be able to separate who you are from what you do, which is super important. And so that's a whole piece of it, right? So the mindset, the actual physical communication piece, as well as helping them develop their political views, their religious values, their deep, deep, deep core values. Because as you see, girls end up on YouTube for one of two reasons, right? It's a really, really bad answer, or hopefully a really good answer. And so we help them do that too, while wearing an evening gown and 6-inch heels on TV, right? So that's kind of what we do. That's just our side of the preparation. There also, the fitness part of it and the walking part of it. We are very niche in what we know that we do best. And that's because I feel like my call on this earth is to empower the wholeness of a woman's spirit, soul, body. And that's kind of the lane that I've chosen, is to help that particular sector of competition rather than a pageant coach at large. But all the aesthetic stuff is obviously a whole different part of competition as well.
Now, when did you decide to actually do that business?
Yeah.
To just turn it into the business? I might have missed that.
So it was right after my senior year. I had no idea what I was doing. I have a vocal music degree, so nothing to do with business whatsoever. I remember the first time I even heard what an entrepreneur was, and this is like embarrassing, but hopefully encouraging to everyone listening, that you don't have to have all your crap together. You just gotta like take bold, massive, and perfect action. I was nannying for a family, and I saw a $137,000 check on her dad's desk, and I was like, whoa, like, how the frick does he make this money? I was like, that's $137,000 more than I made in my life, right? And so I was just like, whoa. And they had one kid. They were happy. They were a tight knit family. The mom actually was a former Miss Tennessee candidate, and I just remember being like, how do they do? But I was like, he's a half-time adjunct professor at Belmont. Like, they don't make that kind of money, And so then I started asking questions, and I found out what she did, and he worked in like property and real estate and other things, and I was just intrigued, and I think I like caught the bug and started asking questions in that moment. And when I asked questions, I started to just think like, well, do I want to work in a cubicle? Do I want to work for myself? What would that look like? Like, could somebody like me ever do that? So came home, was working at a coffee shop, making $10 an hour, would get off my shift and then literally like research business plans on my laptop. Like literally would be Googling, what is a business plan? Like, how do people do this? And actually Zoom had just come out. We've been a totally online company from the beginning. And I would take Zoom calls in the back of my mom's van on the way to my sister's basketball games. Like ratchet, like not cute, not put together, anything. Like charging people $50 like I'm worth something. Like who would ever pay me? But it happened, and one foot in front of another, and here we are, and now we're all over the country. But like literally, to encourage you guys listening, ratchet. It was so bad. Like barely like no Wi-Fi. You're in a moving vehicle. Like it's not happening. But at the end of the day, if you can get people results and you're authentic and you care about people, like God's going to give you that next step. I mean, I literally could barely afford Zoom in the beginning. I didn't have a website, a name, or a logo. I had a name after like 6 months. I didn't have a website or a logo for the first 2 years of my company, like at all. And I started when I was 23. But yeah, so 30 days after I came home from college is when I officially incorporated June 2nd of 2016.
And what was like one of the defining moments of the business?
Yeah. I would say, so I got a website finally the same day that I decided to start a podcast. And I've had one for 3 years, 3.5, almost 4. It'll be 4 in January. And that was a huge leap of faith, because that had been a brainchild kind of idea of mine for a long time, but I had a massive mental block. And maybe some of y'all can put in the chat too, if you've had this moment in your life, I'm sure that you have, where it just seems so hard to me. It seems so difficult. And I was like, everybody's has a podcast. This is so cool. Like I love speaking. I want to be a speaker. I was raised in church. I want to speak on platforms, but like, it just seems so hard. I don't know how I could do that. Like, I'm not techie, and is it expensive? Whatever. And so finally I just started taking one action at a time, and I had a friend help me with the website. Like I'm talking Squarespace, I'm talking like, again, bootstrapping it, Podbean, which is what I still use today. It's like $11 a month, right? But in my mind, it was like so much bigger than that. I bought this microphone and I was like, oh my gosh, like $100 microphone, right? To this day, which is still a lot of money, right? And I just one thing at a time would budget and work my butt off and just, sacrifice. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this podcast is coming out. It came out. It was the most vulnerable thing in my life. I was like, people are going to hear this. Like, I can't take this back. What if they hate it? And I would write out every single word to make sure it was perfect and blah, blah, blah. Now we're coming out with our 111th episode next week. And I write 5 words like on a sticky note like this, and I have a 45-minute podcast. And it's just so cool to see that tangible stretching of my gift when that used to be absolutely terrifying to me 4 years ago, right? It's kind of like a mile marker. That will always be the defining moment for me, because I remember how incredibly scared I was. And now the fact that that is easy, it gives me courage. Like my business isn't perfect today. I was crying over something the other day because it was stressing me out, and we're growing and doing different things, right? But that is a great reminder that like in 4 years from now, the things I'm crying about today will also be easy, even more so. Because if we're willing, we're going to keep growing and molding and stretching. And that's just something really special to me to kind of remind me of how far I've come.
Now, being in the pageants, all of those women are very beautiful. So it's almost like, I wouldn't say a mutant or an outcast. How do women like that feel inside? Because like, it's almost like being like a freak of Mother Nature or something, almost like a circus thing almost, when people are staring at you. And how do y'all feel inside? And even when men are looking, or just people looking, or women jealous, what goes through y'all's mind?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can speak for all beautiful women on the planet. I'm just a human being. But I think the biggest takeaway that I've learned is that we follow a lot of people on social media that we probably are comparing ourselves to, whether they're another business owner, whether they're another, person in the hair industry, the beauty industry. Finding out who you're comparing yourself to, and then being willing to sit with those emotions and journal out, like, why am I comparing myself? What are the real emotions going on here? Are they my enemy, or am I just using emotion that I have not dealt with to kind of make them the object of my anger, the object of my insecurity, the object of my, whatever. And the why I say that is because, having coached hundreds of women one-on-one, you would never know that these women are going through what they're going through. You would never know that they've been being abused by a boyfriend. You would never know that they grew up in poverty. You would never know. Just 2 months ago, I had a client who came out and was like, yeah, my mom's been in prison for 5 years. You would never, ever know, because on the outside, they look beautiful. They look, oh my gosh, I wish I had the cards dealt to them. And so I would say to that, just that everybody's normal, on the inside. Not everybody's normal on the inside, but like these women, like I just, not to judge a book by its cover. It's been one of the most humbling and beautiful things to get to be a part of kind of passing the torch, if you will, in their journey. I get to hold a part of that torch for usually 1 to 3 years in their life. But whoever we're comparing ourselves to, just to really like be kind of self-reflective about that and figure out what God's made you to be unique in and the gifts that you do have, and just learning how to flip that script is a huge part of success. Because just because somebody's beautiful doesn't mean that they feel amazing on the inside, and just because you're getting gawked at, somebody could have a really positive reaction to that, or they could have a really negative reaction. It's really not about what other people do. It's about how your internal dialogue is going on and how you've built your foundation and your identity. And so I would just encourage everybody in that. It's so important to figure out who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from, because really that's something that when I stepped into that in my own life, everything changed for me. And what you'll do in life is a reflection of what you think that you deserve and who you believe that you are when you wake up and look in the mirror every day. And so I guess maybe I answered your question, but that's what I would say to that.
Now, how was it with your sister being an All-American basketball player?
Yeah. So she's a rock star. I mean, we're each other's heroes and best friends. She works for me full time. And she's a great example of somebody who chose to pivot. So she got into pageants because I looked at her one day and I was like, yo, you're going to age out in like a year. Are you going to regret this if you never try it? And she had just graduated college, 3-time All-American, and pageants were not even remotely on her radar. Like this homegirl couldn't even brush her hair. Same with me. When we first started, I couldn't put makeup on, never wears makeup. I still rarely wear makeup. And, but we're both competitive. And so she's like, okay, yeah. And so, she did the same local that I did, the really difficult one, wore all my clothes, got ready in like 2 weeks and beat out everybody. She beat out everybody that I've been trying for like years. And we were like, oh yeah, Swansons are back. And so it was really great. But then she ended up, placing in the top 5, but didn't win her first year. And that was really interesting for her because she kind of felt, I didn't know this till later, but she kind of felt like she had that monkey, that expectation on her back of like, well, you're going to have to win on your first try too, because Megan did. But it was a huge blessing, actually. I mean, like massive blessing that she won her second year, because she ended up getting to hold the title for 2 years. And then we ended up getting to hold the 2 titles in the state at the same time, right? Like we could have never ordained that. We could have never known that that was God's plan all along, for us to be the Swanson sisters holding the 2 biggest titles in the state at the same time. Because A, you can't predict we're each going to win separately, and then B, to do it during the exact same time frame and get to do appearances together and TV shows together and different, all these things was just awesome, because she's my best friend. And then like I said, paid for her master's degree. Is going to pay for half of her doctorate if she wants to. Taught her amazing skills. She was a much better Miss Nebraska than me, because she was a lot older and watched me not know what I was doing. And I look up to her a lot for everything that she did for our state. And obviously she did clinch that win at the end, which is, we all lost it as a family, because we're also the first 2 sisters to ever win Miss Nebraska in the history of Nebraska. And about 12 sets of sisters have tried. And always one will win and then the other one will age out and never win. So we got the W with that too, which is kind of cool.
Now, how did your dad feel having 2 beautiful daughters? I mean, what was that like? Did he have to have a big stick or what?
So he's the proudest dad in the world. Like I said, we've not always had an easy journey, like financially as a family, but my parents are they're literally amazing. They introduce themselves as mom and dad to even grown adults, like people don't know their real names. And he at work is like literally the guy with 500 family photos everywhere. And he's like, no, before we go into this meeting, here's my family. So he's very proud of all of us, mom too. And yeah, I mean, just so incredibly grateful to have them as parents. There are not better parents on the planet.
Now, when you was a kid, what did you say you was going to do when you grew up?
Great question. And we have a question from Ty too. How did I feel about my sister winning? Loved it. Ecstatic. There's a video of me losing it, literally losing it. So I dropped the phone. It's ridiculous. So that was amazing. Sorry, can you ask that question again? Because I just forgot it. What did you ask me?
Because I had another question I was going to ask you after that.
Oh, shoot. Maybe they can tell us in the chat because they were listening better than I was. I got
Question.
distracted.
Um, let me see. Well, I can go ahead and ask you the question after that. This
Perfect.
was a question for the guys. What is the best way for a man to approach, a woman like that? Usually when a man sees a beautiful woman, he gets kind of scared, his heart jumps or whatever. What would you say would be their best approach? Or what have been some of the lines that you've endured?
Oh gosh, you don't want to know some of the lines. Well, I can tell you how my sister's husband and my future husband snagged us. I would say that confidence is definitely key, and there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, for sure. So that's why I'm such a huge proponent of winning the internal battle before you kind of even put yourself out there. I mean, no one's ever going to be perfect, but like really analyzing your core values. There's an amazing book called The Sacred Search that I suggest for all the people that I counsel in relationships. And like I said, I've walked through a lot of really difficult things, made really stupid decisions, dated somebody that was very narcissistic and sociopathic and just not good. So I have a pretty good radar for these things, but I would say confidence is the most attractive thing. Like, again, focusing on what God did give you rather than wishing you were taller, shorter, fatter, skinnier, whatever, because God's got somebody for everybody. And if there's a desire in anyone's heart to be married and to find that person, then I believe that that's on purpose. But we just might need to do some tuning up on the inside to make sure that we are authentically projecting what we also want to receive, right? It's not bad to have a giant list of expectations. Just make sure that you're actually meeting those expectations yourself. So I've been, kind of in my journey since I really wanted to start looking for my person, I would say has been 3 or 4 years. And I've been studying books and just making sure that I'm, going to therapy and getting involved in my community and my family and becoming the best version of who I am. Then I feel confident that I'm like everything that I want in a person, I know that I'm also bringing to the table. I know that I'm bringing great communication. I know that I'm bringing, healthy finances, healthy mind, body, spirit, taking care of myself, different things like that. So that when I expect that in a person, I'm not somebody that's lazy, living on the couch expecting just a multimillionaire to walk in and just snatch me, like that's not equal values and equal purpose. So that's what I would say to everybody. And then the second thing is just like, hang out in areas that you want to find people like-minded, right? So like, don't just go to the bar, but like go get involved in your young adults group in church if faith is important to you, right? Or go to conferences if you want to meet other entrepreneurs or other people involved in those industries. Get involved in like a adult softball thing or club or whatever, right? But like go hang out where those people that you think that you gel with are gonna be. Like it's not rocket science, but and my boyfriend and I met online. Several other people have met online too, and that can be a great opportunity. But I think becoming the person that you would want for yourself is the best way to attract somebody that is your equal partner.
Now, that question that I asked you, that I forgot, it was, what did you say you was gonna do or be when you grew up?
Yes. I wanted to be a pop star my whole life. We were too poor to buy the cool Halloween costume where I got to look like Britney Spears, but I always wanted to. You can see a guitar back there. I have a piano right over here. It's in my blood, and I still sing. I have a couple songs on iTunes. I was a songwriter. I am a songwriter. Was a musician in college. All that stuff. So yeah, always and forever. Wanted to be Carrie Job, and actually, ironically, through Traffic and Funnels, we met Carrie Job's Josh Altop, who you met was Carrie Job's producer for like literally 15 years. And so he's like, hi, do you want to FaceTime Carrie? And I was like, no, that's weird. But I've wanted to be here since I was like literally 10 years old.
Now, how did you get into traffic and funnels?
Yeah. So I went through ClickFunnel or Client Kit a couple years ago, 3 years ago, back when they only had 6 people on the team. And I just aligned with them so much. My sales coach now, Cole, he was still working for Traffic and Funnels, and was like their main closer and just love their heart and their mission. And I think that they're the only people winning at their level that don't compromise on faith, family, being home for dinner at 5 o'clock, things like that. You get a lot of gurus who are like, yeah, let's work 24 hours a day. And like, if that's your jam, awesome. That's not my jam. I like to like be in my pajamas by 8 o'clock. So this was a stretch for me. I was like, I'm going to bed like right after this, and that's just, we all have different things that we value and whatever, but they were people that I was like, I'd trade lives with them. So yeah, they taught me a lot. They helped build my foundation for sales and change my mindset stuff a lot too. Morning Formula. I think I just found them through Instagram or on an ad. Probably an ad. We probably all got through on an ad. So
So, if you had to start the business over, knowing everything that you know now,
mm.
what are some of the things that you would do and some of the things you would not do?
This is honestly, I think, the best question. If you went around and asked a bunch of millionaires this question, fantastic question. And hopefully people don't give you a BS answer. Like some people are going to be like, oh, I wouldn't change anything. I'm like, yeah, you would. You were dumb when you first started. I was dumb. So I would definitely hire people as like specific technicians for things that are not my areas of genius. I'm going to describe this. So out of sales, marketing, operations, and client success, I am sales all day. I like some organic marketing, but like Facebook ads, blah. Anything detail oriented, I'm like, no, thank you. And so my sister is my client success manager. We have an ops guy, and a marketing person as well. So learning, number one, what sector of the business is my genius zone. Wish I would have learned that earlier. Like literally just somebody being like, yo, client success, operations, marketing, and sales are the 4 parts of a business. Which one do you like doing the most? Like just simplifying it like that. Like I had no freaking clue. And then number two, yeah, like once you know what areas just stress you out, as soon as you have enough cash to, get someone to run your Facebook ad super, super well, like there's benefit in you trying and failing and all those things, of course. But like I personally wish that I would have just paid $3,000, $5,000 to have somebody or use a loan or something like that responsibly, right, to just go do a Facebook ad right on the first try, right? Because still after 5 years I've run my whole company organically and still don't even run ads, and we're just getting there because I know that instead of reinventing the wheel, I'm going to bang my head against a wall and probably cry a lot and be super frustrated trying to build this dang Facebook ad, which is what somebody else loves to do, right? And especially if there's ROI attached to it, and that person can get a Facebook ad right on the first or the second try that I paid them for, and it's going to make me $100,000 because of this $5,000 investment. Why would I not do that? I just didn't think that way, and we have to build our money mindset. It's not given to us unless you're raised in a rich family. I had to build that, and I still have to get out of kind of that middle class mindset frequently and really stretch my mindset. So I just wish I would have done that earlier.
So some entrepreneur, now what about, how do you feel about people joining mastermind groups? Like how you joined Traffic and Funnels, became a part of that family or tribe. How do you feel about that? Because
Yeah,
sometimes people don't want to invest or whatever.
yeah. Every time I've invested in a mastermind group, it's probably 10x, not necessarily my income, although it has. But it just accelerates everything. You get out of everything what you put into it. And at the end of the day, you only have so much time in the day and only so much time to even learn. Like I love to read books. I have a bookshelf here, I have a bookshelf here, I have another bookshelf in my office. If I could just sit and read all day and write, I'd be in my happy place. But unfortunately there's not time, always to do all of that. And so we need to be willing and humble enough to lean on each other. I just invested in another mastermind this week. So I love it. And I think if you see a hole in your knowledge, my boyfriend runs a consulting company that has an agency and then also helps freelance videographers and photographers to learn the business side of what they do. Because point blank, most people who are, maybe people in the beauty industry, right? Hair people, whatever, you're really good at what you do as a craft, but you're not necessarily great at the business part. So why would you not want to learn that? So I can't emphasize it enough. It's extremely important. And I think that that's how we climb the different rungs of the ladder a lot faster, personally.
Now, when this COVID hit, because you've always been online. So tell us a little bit about that when COVID came and how your business and all that went.
Yeah. Well, I think we were all scared in the beginning. my business ended up being fine because we adapted. It forced me to get off my butt and make my first online course, which I was another thing I was too scared to do for the first 4 years. But also felt like it was the right time because I had finally kind of quantified my winning process, if you will. And then I got done with building my course about 2 weeks before Miss USA, which was not smart. But talk about stress, just like I don't have enough on my plate running a company, building a course, and trying to prep myself for Miss USA and like 100 other clients. So COVID was an interesting time mentally. I mean, trying to prep for a national contest in an apartment is very difficult. And I think just we're all starting to feel the aftermath of like the mental health and kind of emotional stuff that happened last year that we just kind of shoved down. So I encourage everybody to make sure that you've like fully processed kind of that season, because it was an unprecedented season for all of us, regardless of whether your business was fine or whether it wasn't. I definitely learned a lot about like how we can utilize different government structures. They gave us the PPP loan, EIDL loan, things like that. That was a first for me. I think it definitely made me shift as a business owner, just to be like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to figure it out, or you're going to cry? You're going to freak out? Like, okay, you got like an hour to freak out, and then you got to figure it out. Or like really just talking to myself even more like, hey, your world's not crashing down. You just need to go to bed. Like, you need to get 9 hours of sleep tonight and you'll feel better tomorrow. You're not going to solve this at 11 o'clock at night, and just like prioritizing self-care and just like journaling and what we can do to bring things back into our control when so many things are not in our control. I think I learned that a lot during COVID too.
Now, when I first met you and you told me you all's business, I had never heard of a business like that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of people to do that, is it?
No. There is, in fact, not even a single person who runs a Facebook ad in our entire industry. It's like down in the Stone Ages. Everybody is still doing one-on-one coaching. I mean, only COVID was the thing that even really brought them online. So we're really trying to stay ahead of the bell curve with that, and how we market, how we do more, group coaching courses, things like that. We've had a lot of people copy us in the last like 4 months, like literally copy us. But that's okay. It's part of being an innovator.
So with this business, this online course that you built, what do you feel that why people are like scared? Some people are scared to like how you and I are talking. They won't go live. They won't talk about their business and how they can help people. What is the problem with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid because they've seen a model that they internally are like, that's disgusting and that feels like a used car salesman. But when you realize that when you have a valuable offer that is genuinely the saving grace to a very real pain that someone has, it could be as simple as for y'all's industry, like somebody not feeling beautiful on the inside because they don't look beautiful on the outside, right? In the beauty industry, right? Or someone just saying, well, how could a facial change the world? Whatever. And the fact is when you really get to know your customer, it's so much deeper than that. And you can speak to those pain points. And no matter what industry you're in, you really can change your life. I think that flips the script on sales, doing lives, and really seeing yourself as a leader in your space. It helps when you know the heart and the mind, and the reality of your client. And a lot of us, for us, we were our client, right? A lot of times we've created a business around something that we know because we experienced the pain of it ourselves. So I think just putting ourselves back in the shoes of even us 5 years ago, us 10 years ago for ourselves can remind us why we did this in the first place, and help to rejuvenate that you're not a used car salesman. You're authentically helping people. That's what a business owner is you're providing a service or a product in exchange for someone's money that is their choice to pay you. You're not forcing anybody to listen to you, to pay you, to do whatever. It's their choice because they've seen benefit in you. And that's actually more a reflection of how we need to work on, how we see ourselves, and which is again why we do so much with identity and the people that I life coach and things like that. Is I'm like, no, that's not the problem. Why do you think that? And let's unpack why you think that and where that came from and where the first time in your life that you heard that message. And then once we get clarity on that, usually that's reflected in your finances as well once we kind of clear those mental blocks.
So when you started making money in your business, what was something you said you wanted to do or wanted to buy?
Yeah. Honestly, I will admit I'm definitely still on my way. There are a lot of things in the next year that I think are kind of the monetary things that I'm really going to start getting more bougie with and stuff. But for me, like one of the things was just having an office. And we finally decided to move to an office 4 months ago, and it's been awesome. Just it's enabled me to take that like visible next step. You know, now I have employees and I have people who work for me and co-owners and things like that. Those are just some kind of like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And then, you know, equally you have freak out moments where you're like, okay, now this is more responsibility too, and you don't just have to lead yourself. Learning how to lead other people is a whole other thing than just leading yourself, because it makes you a heck of a lot more accountable. But yeah, I'd say having an office was something really cool, because now my home is a home again, and I don't have to take work home with me every day. So that was something really special.
Now, we got a lot of women on here. If a woman has like a man that's kind of, I don't know, crazy or whatever, a stalker, what is the best way to get rid of somebody like that?
You should call me and we should talk about it. Honestly, I would say that setting boundaries is something that we need to do in life in general, not just in relationships. So as encouragement, number one, I would say finding like your people. So we call them connection circles in my practice, and what that is basically figuring out and delegating certain people to hold you accountable in certain areas. So you have your fitness friend, you have your friend that you go to coffee with, you have your friend that you go to church with, you have your friend that you read a book with every couple months, you know, that have similar interests. And you also have a friend whose relationship that you admire, that you have given the green light to speak into your life, that you feel like you have equal values with, that you trust, that's not going to spread your business with everybody. And that's something really, really, really important, is to find that person and make that mutual commitment with one another. Two is stronger than one, and a three-stranded cord can't be broken. So don't expect yourself to be able to do that by yourself. When I was in an abusive relationship, when you're under the spell of a narcissist, you literally are under a spell, and you can't always, figure out how to get your own head above water. But you can get your head out of water. You just need help, right? So being willing to kind of humble yourself and ask for help, and or just believe God and pray for that one person. Again, start hanging out in places where you think those awesome, helpful, strong people would be, or see if you can get therapy covered by insurance. Just hustling a little bit and figuring out who that person could be. I really believe that what you seek for, you find, and or even if it's just journaling about it, and that's where you're at, and all you got is you and a piece of paper. Right now, God's going to meet you where you're at, and one day I just kind of woke up, snapped myself out of it, and luckily I had a praying mom who was on her knees every day, just like trying to pray for an open door to talk to me about what I couldn't see. But when I finally did, like I was done with it, and I still had to process. I still had to heal. It took me a long time to get over some of the things, but you better believe that 3 years later, I am so freaking glad that I am not where I used to be, right? Even though I think sometimes we're afraid of the change because we become comfortable in the chaos, I would just encourage, like, set yourself free and think about how you're going to feel in 5 years. I know that the pain in your heart feels like it's never, ever, ever going to heal, but really time does heal. And think about how awesome your future is going to be. And God can't give you what's supposed to be in your life until you're willing to release the other thing. There's not space for both. And now I think about what my life looks like now, my relationship looks like now. And if I would have held on to that, my life now would have never been what it would have been. I would have been a servant to a crazy person and completely missed the call of God in my life, and I just don't want that to happen to any other woman or man. So I highly, highly encourage you. Literally, you can DM me on Instagram or whatever, and I can help point you in the right direction. But take it from somebody who's been there and felt like they'd never, ever get out of that mess and those chains and just the mental bondage that I felt like I was in. But here I am, and so other people can do it too.
Now, when women in relationships like that, because even my sister's friends, some of them have been in relationships like that. And even my sister had been in one back when I was a cocaine dealer. And
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't tell me, and somebody else told me. So something happened to that dude that we won't talk about. But your brother's a big dude.
Mm-hmm.
Did you not tell him?
Oh, great question. You know, the thing about being in those relationships is that your partner likes to isolate you from the people the closest to you. So, and they play a really good game. So it takes a very keen and wise person to be able to sometimes have their number, because if you're not close enough to the narcissist, they're playing everybody's fiddle. And what they'll do is they're so brilliant that they will connect with other people on what that person likes to connect on to make the other person feel important, and only those closest to the narcissist see kind of the Hyde to the Jekyll, right? So again, my mom was kind of the whistleblower in that situation, and I feel close enough to where she's somebody that I spoke to about those things. And then also my best friend Topi, those are just my girls that I share those types of things with. My brother is just not the guy that I go to about relationship stuff. So because he was more on the outside and, you know, saw me for Sunday dinners and things like that, he wasn't able to see that because most people can't. And so that's where it's so important. And here's my other bit of advice is set your list of what you want and what you're looking for while you're single. I cannot express enough how important that is, or else guess what your list is going to look like the second that the next hot dude walks by. Gonna look exactly like that. You're gonna be like, I found him. And I'm like, yo, no, he's not at all. And what I found with the girls that I've counseled is then, you know, homeboy walks in and he's hot and sexy and they'll be like, but he has a job. And I'm like, you know, I'm like, and they're like, and he bought me dinner. And I'm like, and they're like, well, he's nice. And I'm like, okay, right? So are 7 billion other people. So set your standards ahead of time and share them with somebody. Share them with your girlfriend, share them with your, you know, whoever that person is, so that they can hold you to that standard. And then when they're trying to have that conversation with you of like, hey, can I be honest with you? You know that the precedent and the agreement, put it in writing if you have to and sign it. I've done that too, or advise people to do that. But at least that agreement has already been made ahead of time so that it doesn't feel like it's an attack on you. Because we've all been there where I'm like, get out of my business. I know what I'm doing. You're just being mean to me. Blah, 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 blah. But when that agreement is set ahead of time, there's power in it where I'm like, okay, I know that you're not doing this for any other reason than because you love me and because you want to see me free. And using that kind of a language too is really helpful when you're encouraging your friends.
Okay, we ain't got long left. Now, somebody that has a dream. A lot of these people got dreams to open schools or they're beauty professionals, but they want to, the school is like one of the highest levels in our industry. So when somebody has a dream and they aspire to do something, what do you recommend that they do? You know, they got all these other voices in their own head and people telling them stuff. What do you recommend?
Why are you taking advice from somebody who hasn't built the dream that you want? I think that's something really easy. Like, why would you take fitness advice from somebody 300 pounds overweight? Why would you take business advice from somebody who's broke? Like, I don't care if they're your mom. I don't care if they're your boyfriend, right? If they're your boyfriend, then probably break up with them. But, you know, listen to people who actually have the lives that you want. Follow them. Look at their stuff. Look at what they're doing. Hack their habits. You know, how do they wake up every day? When do they go to bed? What are the boundaries that they set for their life? Those repeatable actions are things that you can take too. And when you take those actions, you're going to get similar results. And then the second part of that is, and you know, diagnose what money mindset that you have right now. What did you come into this earth with because of your life experience? For me, it was kind of a lower middle class mindset. I always figured it out of how to have my bills paid, but whether I'd make 20K in a month or 2K in a month, I'd figure out how to spend it all, because that's the middle class mindset, always just enough. So Secret to the Millionaire Mind was a breakthrough book for me that helped me to realize where I needed some more stretching. And then staying connected to the vine of people, you know, like this conversation right here, people who are where you want to be, who have done what you want to do, and making sure that you're asking questions and being active in those things. That's the way that you're going to get to the top.
Okay, now we got a couple of questions. Daniel out in Guam, he said, when my twin girls are old enough, can they work with you?
Absolutely. I would love that.
Okay. Zandra said, thank you for your story. Now, for the women, give us some secret beauty tips, because your eyebrows are perfect, eyes, your teeth are perfect and white. So can you give us some little secret tips?
Yes. Well, don't look back at my old Facebook pictures because I didn't look like this. So if your mom tells you that your eyebrows are too dark, listen to your mom because I didn't listen to my mom and they were like check marks for like 2 solid years. So just don't look back at my Facebook. Number two, my teeth are veneers, so my teeth are not real, so I can't take credit for those. But I did get a wonderful sponsor when I was Miss Nebraska USA. I had braces, so my teeth looked pretty much like this before, but teeth are not real, so can't take credit for that. And other beauty tips, honestly, I think that kind of the natural look is really in right now, which is kind of fun. So learning what your best feature is, maybe it's your cheekbones, maybe it's your eyebrows, your eyes, your lips, whatever it is, like learning how to maximize those things to make you show up in the world as like knowing how to make yourself feel beautiful, I think is one of the most empowering things in the world. Like I said, I was an athlete growing up, like absolutely no idea how to put makeup on. It took like 400 FaceTime sessions. But my makeup artist was very patient with me and I could have just watched YouTube videos, but once I found how to do like my glam look and then kind of learning how to do my 5 minute every day where I still feel beautiful all the way to like stage ready pageant, that was so empowering because I knew that even if I gained 5 pounds, and needed to wear some extra shapewear that day or whatever, I knew how to like make my face look stellar, which gave me so much confidence. And don't look at my hair right now because your hair people, and I was like, oh, my hair is atrocious today. But yeah, learning your best features and just learning how to like invest in yourself and make your best you. No one can take that away from you. And then the second thing is like learning how to feel vulnerable enough with yourself that like whether your hair is a mess that day or not, like you still feel internally okay with who you are. Outer beauty starts with inner beauty. And I think that we've all seen the women who feel like they need to compete with other women by having, the craziest hair or the longest hair or change their hair every week, or whatever the heck it is. It's like if you want to do that and that's your vibe, awesome. But if you're doing that because you don't feel great about what's going on the inside, that's not going to be attracting what you want. And then you're just going to be spending all this money and this time and this energy trying to reinvent the wheel as opposed to, really getting down in the nitty gritty of what actually the problem is. So just being honest with yourself is one of the greatest gifts that you can ever give to yourself, and keep asking yourself, like, why am I doing this? And if it's for a great reason, awesome. But if it's not, then you're going to save a lot of time, energy, and money not having to, answer the problem to the wrong problem, if you will.
Dr. Lakeway Sean, he said something about the eyelashes. Um,
Oh, yes. So, so I do have opinions about that. I have huge eyes, so luckily I can wear a lot of lash, but when they're too long and they look like windshield wipers covering your eyebrows, that's too much, in my opinion. Get down with your bad self, but the natural look is really in, even for pageants. So maybe not windshield wipers, maybe like try like half as big and then like see if you get some compliments on that. But if you're all lash and I can't see your beautiful face, God made you to have a beautiful face on purpose. You don't need to hide it with massive lashes. But I do love a good lash.
what do you think? What since you've been in these beauty pageants, you've been around the most beautiful women in the world.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of like the top three a woman needs to do this, 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 and they should do this, this, this. This just gonna turn the men off. Now, do the women do that like men? Almost everything we do is for a woman.
Mm.
We talk about that in the barbershop privately. We'll buy a car for a woman, a Rolex. Everything we do is to get the attention of a woman. Now, do women do the opposite the same or what?
That's a great question. My boyfriend and I have talked a lot about this too. Women are just wired differently. Women are wired emotionally, men are wired physically. So that's just the way that they work. Women meet somebody and are thinking, can I marry them and have babies with them? So we're just wired a little bit differently. Men obviously are not thinking that. So I don't know. I don't know again if I can speak for all women with that necessarily. But again, I think the intention behind why we do things, having other dreams that are not just for men. I think a lot of times we create these benchmarks in our life. When I have $1 million, I'll be happy. When I find a man, I'll be happy. When I have my first kid, I'll be happy. When I lose 10 pounds, I'll be happy. I'm just going to tell you and be real with you. No, you're not. If you don't fix the internal things, no external thing can make you happy. It will for a moment, but then you're going to have just as low of a depressive episode as you had a high in that moment. So again, get alone with yourself, build your foundation, build your identity, build your self-worth, and then you can actually be present and know that the things that are those highs in that moment, you can be fully present with, because they're not, again, your identity is not in those achievements. You just get to enjoy those achievements because you already loved who you were.
Now, when you moved to Nashville and you gained those 45 pounds, what were you eating?
I was so when you have binge eating disorder, you're eating because you're emotional and you're not aware of it. So you experience things like denial. You eat because you're bored. You eat, I mean, all the time. Like, and I would literally flat out deny, like, I didn't have that many calories. I was actually eating like mostly healthy food. So the mind body connection, that's why I'm so passionate about it. Yeah, Xander says me, been there. So, and it's really vulnerable, right? Like, I used to get mean. My mom would be like, do you really want to eat that? And I would hear it as, do you really want to eat that? Right? Like, I'd hear it that way of like, you think I'm fat? Oh, and I'd just go off on her. And it wasn't until I let like God into that part of my heart where I was willing to get vulnerable with myself. And it was like so yucky, right? It was like letting God into those parts of my heart that had like cobwebs and were really gross. And I was like, mine, I don't want anybody else to see this. I was so ashamed, but so caught in this cycle that I felt like was controlling me. I just had to slow down and be willing to get real, and then build a new habit brick by brick. And it sucked and it was hard, but when I was emotionally free from that, I'll never forget, it was Thanksgiving of 2016 20 no 2013 Thanksgiving. I looked down at my food, and for the first time I had no emotional connection, and the first time in like 5 years I didn't feel like I had to finish my plate of food to be happy, and I didn't have an emotional connection, which is so crazy and sounds really dumb, but American culture, you might have been raised with a family that's like, finish your food, you're wasting it, and that's tough. It's tough to unwire that, but again, that's why we have coaches, why we have life coaches, people like that, because like, we're messed up people. We all are. And so we need help, and it's okay.
So what is like the best way for somebody to be in shape, to get in shape? Because a lot of women are getting those BBLs and getting snatched and
Yeah.
all that type of stuff. And I don't know how they're going to be when they get, seniors or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just going to share a fun fact with y'all. So, lots of pageant girls, I wouldn't say lots, some will get like liposuction. So let's take liposuction, for example. And I'm not against plastic surgery, do whatever you need to do. But it's just important to know the repercussions of that. So, like, I didn't know that liposuction, for example, if you get it taken out of your stomach, okay, great, you're going to lose weight. It'll shrink your stomach, whatever, right? Or you get reduction surgery. You'll do that, but then actually what happens is, because they're taking the fat cells out of your stomach, it means that those, when you don't change your habits, so for example, I don't gain a lot of weight in my arms. I have a very like athletic body, so I gain it around like my thighs and my legs, stuff like that. So if I were to take fat out of those places, what happens is, and I don't change my habits, the fat's still going to go somewhere. So then I would start actually getting fat in my arms, in my other parts of my body that I don't normally get fat in, because you've taken the fat cells out of the normal places that you gain weight. So, for example, I'm not an MD, I'm not giving you medical advice, but those are just things that, again, make sure you're thinking through the entire internal mind-body connection of something and not just looking for a quick fix. Again, do it if you feel like that's the best thing for you. Get down with your bad self. But, you in the long-term scheme of things, you're going to be so proud of yourself if you're willing to fix the psychological issues, which obesity and eating disorders, they're all mental health, issues as well. And that's why I'm so passionate about that, because I want to see people set free, and specifically with women, because that's my call. I don't want to see you controlled by anything in your life, or food, or an addiction to something keeping you from your other awesome goals and dreams in your life.
Now, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and you've been in Nashville, so they like to eat down south. And a lot of my sister's friends had those type of surgeries, and they look good for a minute, but it's almost like their weight came back with a vengeance. They're bigger now, years later, than what they were. So, I mean, what makes it come back with a vengeance?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're not fixing the root problem. And so if you have the same habits, it's going to produce the same results. I was working out with the guys 6 days a week, playing noon ball, lifting, working out like crazy, and was still gaining weight. And it wasn't until I slowed down and was willing to just face the facts that I was the problem. And you know what? I still like eat what I want when I want now. I actually eat probably less healthy, 80-20, healthy. But I train my body to crave healthy things, and I train my body to ask myself better questions like, okay, why are you eating that? Or like, are you just bored? Being willing to go there. Um, and at the end of the day, just because I know that this isn't a conversation about eating, but eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. If you can train yourself how to do that, it will fix a gigantic host of problems. And then just like walk, honestly, just walk. Like you don't have to go from zero to doing CrossFit, just walking, drinking water, getting enough sleep, regulating your hormones, like getting your hormones checked to make sure that there's not some whack stuff going on, eating more real food and less processed food. It doesn't have to be like, okay, now I'm going to go on the paleo diet for 90 days. Just like do simple things and then get accountability around it, get a sister, get a buddy that you can go walking with if you love talking and being social, or use that time to meditate and just like be in nature and get connected to the earth again. That's what it is for me. Like I'll put headphones in and listen to nothing for 45 minutes and I just let my brain like think, and it's so therapeutic for me. And so I walk like almost every day just for me because I value me. And if I don't feel like working out that day, then I just go walk, and that's better than nothing.
Okay. I don't think we have any other questions. Do y'all have any other questions? Y'all want to ask them now? If not, let's see. Okay, what's your favorite song?
Oh, I hate this question. This is the bane of my existence as a musician. It really just depends on the day. Right now, I couldn't even tell you the name of it. I only know like the bridge. But I've been listening to a lot of instrumental music because I'm actually formulating a new program. I'm writing a book right now, and I'm writing for this other company. So I need a lot of like thinking music. So I'm going through Bethel Music's instrumental worship tracks over and over and over on repeat. But I'm weird, and I'll like listen to a fireplace crackling for like 4 hours, and then I'll be like in deep writing mode. So that's not a song, but I'm so auditory. I actually have synesthesia, like a little bit, which is where your senses cross. And like when you're hearing something, you're also seeing like colors and your other like senses cross. So I can't listen to words, or else I like literally can't see and I can't focus. So fun fact, it's not that fun, but yeah. So that's what I'm listening to right now.
What's your favorite food?
Favorite food is Chick-fil-A, or pickles or ice cream.
Favorite beverage?
Favorite beverage, water, or there's a company here in Nebraska that has an awesome cider company called Glacial Till, and they're probably my favorite alcoholic beverage.
Favorite dessert?
Ice cream, hands down.
What flavor?
I don't like chocolate anything. I know that's weird. I'm a girl and I don't like chocolate. But I like vanilla, cookie dough, birthday cake, anything.
Favorite chips?
Favorite chips. There is a protein ranch flavored Quest chips. If y'all want to get some protein but still eat your chips, 20 grams of protein in one bag, and they taste like ranch Doritos.
Your worst food that you don't like to eat?
Chocolate. Olives. Probably olives. I can't stand them, but I love pickles, which is weird.
Favorite color?
Pink.
Okay. What's your favorite clothing wear that you like to wear?
Yeah, so high waisted jeans are my staple. And then this jacket's pretty cool. I had this made. It's got like a lion on the back, and it was
Oh
painted.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think I wore it in Nashville, and it's got like my name somewhere around here. Yeah, there we go. So I had an artist. I just said, hey, make it bold, and I have a really strong personality, and so he wrote like warrior and made a lion. It was perfect.
Now somebody asked a question. How many goals do you expect to achieve on an average day?
Yeah, really great question. So I just did a whole training on this. So Pierre, if you want to send me a DM on Instagram, I can send you this training. But I've learned to set one major outcome a month. So like one big thing, and then categorize what I do in a day based off of what fits into that goal. So for example, I'm on like a sales sprint right now. So sales calls, lead generation, and organic content writing are my three biggest tasks that I try and get done in the day because they lead to that greater sales goal. I still do admin, I still work out, I still read my Bible, I still cook, do whatever throughout the day, but those don't align with my outcome. So other than like my reading time and thinking time in the morning, I prioritize what fits with my bigger goal because I know that's what's going to make me the most proud of myself and feel the best because I'm accomplishing that bigger piece of pie, if you will.
All right. Do y'all have any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, Megan, I thank you for sharing and coming on as our guest. I learned a whole lot tonight.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna leave you all with a song. So